Good morning. Today on Spotlight, inside two important Detroit development projects. The ongoing Joe Louis Greenway partnership and the brand new Joya Gardens housing and retail building in the heart of Southwest Detroit. Our guests, Liana Metley, Executive Director, Joe Louis Greenway Partnership, Laura Chavez Wazawadeen, President and CEO, Southwest Detroit Business Association, and Lily Gonzalez, Development Manager, Scenair Solutions. It's Sunday, February the 2nd. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. Ms. Metley, about 2 years ago, you transitioned into Executive Director of the Joe Louis Greenway Partnership. How's the transition been?
I can just tell you it's just been the role of a lifetime. It's been something that I've been working towards my entire life, which is serving the residents and the community here in Detroit. And I get to do it in a big way with one of the most amazing projects, massive projects that we've seen here in our city in a long time.
You were with the Rock families, you were with Home Depot. How did all this prepare you for the job at hand today, which is very much a public-private partnership, but it's also very deeply rooted in the community?
Yeah, I would say even before that, just thinking about, as a young person growing up with my grandparents, watching Chuck Stokes and...
Oh my God, right? You're dating me.
but growing up watching, individuals who've always been committed to the community. So I really was raised with that. My grandfather was a developer here in the city. My grandmother was a teacher. And that was just ingrained in me. And when I went to high school, I was class president, all of those things, right? It was just who I was, and I love Detroit. And my corporate experience really taught me how to understand the impact that corporations can have on communities and that you really need to give back. And then even with Bedrock, doing strategic partnerships, being able to dive into a lot of grassroots organizations and understand how we could make a deeper impact. And now this, I've lived it, and I get to do it here in Detroit.
What's your goal for this partnership, which is going to be, 27.9 miles, all said and done?
Yeah, so, I like to round it up to 30 miles because it's a greenway that is still being planned and growing. So the city of Detroit, who is really leading this project in collaboration with Dearborn, with Highland Park, and with Hamtramck, we're still doing engagement. So there's still segments that we're going out to residents and community and talking about the route and the alignment. And so that engagement is still happening. So I'm gonna say 30 miles and growing maybe. But as we think about this project, it is making such an impact. And so we have, economic development, we have affordable housing being applied. And so something like this in Detroit, my goal is that it is a project that has national significance, that we are an example for countries, for other cities on how to do a project like this, how to do it engaging community from the beginning and keeping residents along the way the entire time, never letting go of the hand of our residents who are the people we're building this for. Some of these neighborhoods have not seen investment in 10, 20, 30, maybe even 50 years. And the Joe Louis Greenway is the first investment. The brand new park that was built at the Warren Trailhead. That area was, blighted. It had tires, it had, trash and debris. And now you see it vibrant, it active. We had a Fall Harvest Fest. We had almost 400 people out there in an area that was trash and garbage before. And so this project is bringing hope, but it's actually bringing dollars to neighborhoods. Detroit is doing all of the development. The city of Detroit was able to go out and purchase 8 miles of Conrail. So that rail line is what's being worked on right now. But that's going to connect Dearborn. Dearborn has a $24 million grant that they're working on in collaboration with the city of Detroit. It's going through Highland Park. The Woodward Bridge is happening. That construction is happening right now. And then Hamtramck. So when you think about it, when I describe the Joe Louis Greenway, think about the riverfront on the south of our city. We have this world-renowned, beautiful riverfront where people come from all over, right? It's won awards. That's beautiful. But now we have a connection from the riverfront to the neighborhoods north. Detroit was a city that put the world on wheels. Well, we still want to put the world on wheels on the Greenway, but maybe the wheels are bike.
That works.
Or roller skates, right?
Right.
And so we still want to keep this city making national news and doing innovative projects, but we want to root it in community. We want to root it in our residents and make sure that this project is focused on neighborhoods and focused on community.
All right, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about the name of it and the significance and what you hope people will get out of that when all is said and done. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight, talking to Liana Medley, and she is the executive director of the Joe Louis Greenway. The name Joe Louis, of course, absolutely historic, and unless you're Rip Van Winkle somewhere, you ought to know who he was. But having that name on it, what do you want people to accomplish? You want them to know more about the person and how it's connected to the future?
Yeah, you know, I think in Detroit it's so important that we continue to remember our legacy and our heroes, right? We continue to advance those legacies that were a strong part of our history. And we don't want people to be forgotten. Someone like Joe Louis, who, you know, really did amazing work, and we think about him a lot of times just as a brown bomber and in boxing.
A barrier breaker.
A barrier breaker. And there was an article that Rochelle Riley went when the Joe Louis Arena was being torn down, and it was really a moment of reflection, I think, for us about what do we do now? What does that name mean, and how do we keep that legacy going? And the Louis Barrow family continue to do amazing work to ensure that the Joe Louis legacy is maintained, but it's also about like his character, who he was as a trailblazer, as a fighter in and out of the ring. And Detroit, that really symbolizes us. I mean, we've been through so much. And what more symbolizes the fight in us than to continue to associate it with such a strong name and to build that legacy? And so when people come, it really is a symbol of how strong we are, how resilient we are, how much fight we have, but also we do other things, right? Joe Louis was an equestrian, he was a golfer. There's a statue that we're working on, the city of Detroit and the arts culture team is putting together that is Joe Louis as a golfer, right? And so we're not just one thing, and there's so much symbolism in Joe Louis as a person that continues to live down, and we need future generations to know about that.
And I would imagine that your degrees are in psychology from the University of Michigan, Dearborn, and also community development from University of Detroit, that those two kind of converge on both the quality of life and what people take in almost subliminally sometimes, as well as the economic benefits of all this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important, the messages that we tell ourselves. And through public space like the Joe Louis Greenway, one of the most important messages is that all of our neighborhoods deserve beautiful public space, that you can go outside and you can walk and you can recreate and you can enjoy yourself. There's a social component that's about how we reconnect communities that's much deeper than the economic impact, that's about the healing through, you know, space, and outdoor and program public space. And I think that's important for me as a Detroiter, as someone who's raising their child here, to make sure that he feels like this place is somewhere that he wants to stay, right? After he graduates, I want to come back and I want to live my life in Detroit and I want to make this city better.
A political change in administrations in Washington, D.C., certainly a lot of news this past week in terms of federal freezes. Is that impacting you, and is it potentially going to impact a city that has had a Democratic governor who may be billing himself as something else down the line in terms of independence when he runs for another seat, but has been closely associated with Democratic administrations and has gotten a lot of federal funding because of that, along with other partners in the city. Is that having any impact? And I know it's early yet.
Yeah, I think that's what you said there is that it is early. You know, we understand that with any change in administration, whether it's local government or federal government, there are going to be a number of changes. But we have been really focused on community here. And so while we seek to understand all of these changes that come out, one of the things that we're sure of is that our partners support us, that our friends at the city and all around support this project. We rely on our funders who have doubled down on their support for us and this project because of the impact. And that's really what we're focused on. The impact that this project is making will stand on its own. And people can come today and see a neighborhood that's been developed. They can see the change. This is not something that is, we're saying is gonna come. You can go right now to the Joe Louis Greenway and you can see a change from where it was when we started with, 30,000 tires, 600,000 tons of debris, and now you see a beautifully developed and active trail. I'm a fundraiser, so that never stops.
Gotta always feed the beast.
Always, right? And so projects like this require more than, we require, and that's what you talked about, that public-private partnership. A big project, a massive undertaking, a transformational project like this in a city like Detroit, Highland Park, Hamtramck, and Dearborn require resources from all over. So federal, state, and local, private, and individual. And so, individuals.
Diversify the bucket.
That's right, so that things are going to happen. This is Detroit. We have experienced all kind of things. And so this is not our first time, and we're ready for, for the challenges that come.
Well, they say we're a gritty city.
That's
and
right.
Our football team proved that.
That's right.
All right. Leona Medley, thank you so much for coming in. It's a pleasure sitting down and talking with you. Best of luck, and we'll get you back.
Thank you so much, Chuck.
All right, thank you. And coming up, we'll turn our attention to another development project that had a grand opening this past week in the city of Detroit, in Southwest Detroit. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. Joining me now is Lily Gonzalez. She is Development Manager for Scenair Solutions, and Laura Chavez Wazirandine. Yes. Did I do it pretty good?
Beautiful, thank you.
All right, very good. And she is President and CEO of Southwest Detroit Business Association. And welcome to Spotlight for both of you. Laura, I'm going to start with you. Just had a big grand opening there on West Verner of Joya Gardens. What's going to be the major benefit of having that open up in that prime space on a prime avenue in Southwest Detroit?
Yeah, I love that question, first of all. So La Joya Gardens, known as the Jewel, and so it is a beautiful, beautiful community space. It's more than apartments. There's a community space there that has a lot of amenities for the community, but also it will have retail space as well as a retail incubator that allows for a stress test, if you will, for businesses that transition from pop-up to brick and mortar. It is definitely a place for people to convene, for everyone to be able to enjoy, and then the anchor of that retail space is Clark Cafe, which we launched a patronicity campaign on Monday for as well. But that will allow for creatives to be able to create and be able to be a part of a space that we haven't had a cafe on West Verner Highway for over 7 years. And so this is something that is truly part of the jewel that is Southwest Detroit.
Sure, and this is, I believe, a $25 million project. You're a key part of that, Lily Gonzalez. Why did you want to get involved in the company that you're involved in? Why did you want to be a part of this?
Yes, so my background is in architecture and urban design, and I moved from Kentucky to Detroit to join Scenair Solutions 7.5 years ago because I wanted to sort of round out the understanding of the built environment. As a designer, I understood that a bit and still growing, but now I wanted to understand what's it like to be a developer. And I gotta say, it could not have anticipated everything that came since then, but I'm so grateful that I went with Scenair Solutions, who's a nonprofit development company. We work in 5 different states, but here our mission is to partner with organizations such as SDBA and help bring their vision to their community forward. What that looks like kind of changes depending on the skills and what the capacity needs are, but I gotta say, it's been very, very fulfilling.
There was a point in time when there was a lot of blight on the lot as well. And so to be someone, I've been quoted as saying I'm the daughter that Southwest Detroit raised because this is my neighborhood. I walked these streets my whole entire life. And to see this blighted block turn into La Joya is so beautiful, and the brilliancy that it brings to our community, it truly is a gem.
And the neighborhood, residents of the neighborhood, I understand, were very much involved with the overall planning of this, correct?
Absolutely. So you'll see certain details and amenities that they would not compromise on, but
Such
also
as?
the name. So the name was definitely open to a naming contest to the residents in Southwest Detroit, and it is named after a town of a resident from Jalisco, Mexico. So La Joya, that's what it's named, the gem or the jewel. And then also the fins that you'll see on the exterior of the Cafe Clark area, so the community space that's on the first floor. So you'll see these beautiful blue turquoise fins on the outside that were designed by Diseños, which is also a company from Southwest Detroit. But there were certain things that they were just not going to compromise on, but I think it's very important because the community has had so much buy-in to this beautiful project that, again, has from land inception or land acquisition has taken nearly 10 years.
The reason we have that community space, the Jewel, is because of a resident in one of the meetings. We had proposed the 2 retail anchors in each corner and a big open space in the middle. And one of the comments that we heard from a resident was like, well, we have Clark Park Caddy Corner already, which is a large open space.
Right.
And
so well known.
And so well known, right? So that stayed with us. And I remember being back in the office with the design team and trying to brainstorm, like, how do we address that? And that's where.
So having that community input is important because once you build it, you don't want people to feel like, well, if you had asked me, we would have told you. You asked on the front end, and that makes sense. All right, we're going to take a quick little break. We'll come right back, and we'll pick up on this, and we'll talk about the mixed income, mixed use, and how this has been important for residents who have been a key part of Southwest Detroit for a long period of time. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Ms. Gonzalez, had you been to Detroit before all of this started, and did you have much of a sense of what Southwest Detroit was and its importance to this city and the fastest growing neighborhood in the city?
Okay, I did not have those details. I was aware. I went to U of M for a year back in 2013 to study, so I got an introduction to the city and got to know some of the neighborhoods a little bit. From the beginning, when I moved here, I saw it there, and I see it now, and I see it growing in a really positive direction.
Very good.
You're always trying to find partners that believe in the work and believe in the vision that you have for your community.
Because it's a public-private partnership.
Correct. And so having the Strategic Neighborhood Fund be a valued partner in this was essential. We had so many partnerships as well, with Flagstar Bank, PNC Bank, the City of Detroit, all of these partners that came up, Michigan Housing Authority, all of these partners that came into place to say, we believe in you, Invest Detroit. It was so important for them to see our neighborhood as a neighborhood that they wanted to invest in. And so, all too often people say, oh, all the investments go downtown Detroit, but no, that's not true. This administration has been very intentional and strategic in having a strategic neighborhood fund that goes directly into these neighborhoods to help to create these development projects like our affordable housing piece of this, and to be able to have 42 of the 53 units that qualify under affordable housing and starting affordable housing at 30% AMI is so essential, but also a testament to the intentionality behind the work that was done to make this project actually come to fruition.
Yeah, because everybody wants development, but you don't want development that just brings in high-end people with high-end salaries. You want something that people who have been invested in that neighborhood for decades and years can also say, I too can live in this brand new housing.
And that was so important, Chuck. It was so important to be able to say that there's actual people from Southwest Detroit that are actually living in these units. You know, we have so many young creatives that are fresh out of college and they don't make $80,000 or $90,000, you know, but they're now living in La Joya Gardens. And so to be able to say we have housing that is available for these young people to stay in the city of Detroit, to stay in your community, and to have your footprint and have your imprint on the community that you love and cherish so much is beautiful.
Lily, you've seen these type of developments in other places. What's kind of the history of when you put these type of developments in an area that's already vibrant? What impact does it have on other businesses that may have been there for years?
I think it adds to it. It adds to the fabric of the neighborhood, especially when it's a development that's mixed use, where you have the residential and then you also have commercial spaces. And in this case in particular, it's a little extra special because we're working with Southwest Detroit Business Association, who is all about addressing the
Been there since 1957.
Yeah, so they have a lot of experience in this area, and I think, Laura, you mentioned the space where...
The accelerator space?
Thank you, the accelerator space, where you'll be able to bring even more businesses to test out their ideas. So I think that if it's done right and if it's done with intentionality, like you mentioned, then it's going to be a very positive addition to that neighborhood.
Sure. Final question. Unfortunately, time's always our worst enemy, but I want to shift gears a little bit. As the leading business organization in Southwest, your reaction to the change that we see happening in Washington, ICE raids on immigrants, thinking this has to have some kind of chilling impact on Southwest, but your take on what's happening and what role you get to play, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's a very fair question. You know, Southwest Detroit is a diverse population, and we are a very welcoming community, and we have, you know, people from all over. But as the organization that has been there, as you mentioned, nearly 70 years, we serve as a trusted resource. You know, we're an ally, we're a resource, and we want to continue to see our residents and our community thrive and succeed. And so we will continue to serve in that capacity and follow through with our mission to be strong and be a valued, trusted asset to everybody in the community, and you know, do what's necessary. And we love, you know, we love Southwest Detroit, and so we're going to continue to do the work.
All right. Laura, Lily, thank you so much for coming in, sharing all of your insight on this brand new development and all that's happening, very vibrant in Southwest Detroit, and we'll stay in touch with you on it.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, it's certainly our pleasure. And we want to thank all of you at home for joining us. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.